This is pretty drastically not in the perspective of our plate. So how we're going to handle this is we're going to take this image and we're going to split it up into orthographic tile sets. Basically, take each facade of this building and flatten it out so there's no perspective. And then we'll be able to bring it back in and then correct the perspective to match our plate. So I'm going to grab the original reference image. It's this one right here. And I'm just going to focus on one building at a time. So first, I'm going to get rid of any vertical perspective. Again, using the ruler tool. And Control T to free transform, and just distort it. And something like that works. Then I'm going to mask this out. I'm sure by now you've noticed how much of matte painting is actually masking out elements. I actually enjoy it though. My OCD just feels fulfilled when something's nicely masked out. And I'm using a square brush right now for this. And I recommend when you're dealing with city elements and buildings and stuff like that, that you don't use a round brush because there's not a lot of organic edges and corners, and square brushes just are better suited for the job. And I also have my shape dynamics turned off so that it doesn't give me a tapered edge. Also, by removing the vertical perspective, it actually makes masking it out faster because I can just hold Shift and drag it down. That's just alt-clicking on the mask. And I'll just use the marquee to speed this up a bit. Just like before, we're going to use the wand tool, grab the outside, select, modify, expand, and that can get rid of everything else. So now we have our building masked out. I'm actually going to apply this layer mask so that I can create a new one. And now I'm going to split this into two facades, the left side and the right side. And a good way to speed this part up, if you wanted to just delete one of the sides, is I'll alt-click on the mask, control-click on the image, control-shift-I to invert the selection, and then just fill that with black. And now I can use the wand tool again. Select Modify, Expand, and boom, that's all out. So now I have one side. I can duplicate that with Control J, Control I on that mask, and I have the other side. A little artifact in here, which I can take care of pretty easily right now. So now I have my two sides. And I will apply both of those layer masks. And I'm just gonna focus on one side at a time. And what I wanna do is I wanna straighten out all of the lines and get rid of any perspective. So going back to using the ruler. And if you wanna hide these grid lines, by the way, it's Control semicolon or Control colon. And that just toggles those on and off. So I'll drag some lines out. Go back to free transform, Control T. And I'm just going to straighten everything out. And that's looking good, but I can just check it, make sure. Cool. Hit enter, and now we have our left side. Do the same thing for the right side. And that's looking pretty good. Cool. So now we have our two sides. I'm gonna put them next to each other to make sure that that all these edges are aligned. So you can see right here, there's like a bit of a edge. So I'm just gonna move that up, scale it a little bit, just to make sure it's all fitting nicely. And once I get it to this point, kind of flayed out orthographically, this is actually a really good time to do your paint out work. Because everything is a grid, it becomes a lot easier. So for the right side, if I want to just get rid of these trees, I'll just hide the background layers so I have transparency. And just use the clone brush, which is S. I'll just grab a point here and make sure it's set to current and below. Line that up. And you can see I can just paint this right out. I'll clip it too, so it just stays within the image. This is pretty quick and dirty, but should do the trick. And I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of this area in the actual painting because we have a freeway blocking it. But it's good to show at least so that you know, for other buildings where we do need to do paint out work, it's just easier to do it when it is already flayed out orthographically. Here's another trick. Once I get this line in. For areas like this, if you want to do a quick way to get rid of this repetition, and if you just want clean straight lines, you can use the smudge tool, sample all layers, and I can just grab this and shift click it down, and it's just smudging all of this down, and you get rid of that kind of stair-stepping feel. You got to be a little careful with this because it can just look a little artifacty and smeared, but a lot of the times it's the easiest way to do your paint out work, especially for things if you're just like extending to the bottom of canvas. I usually just use that smudge tool to move everything down. I'll just quickly do this side as well. And for something like this, I don't really care about these details too much, so I'm just gonna get rid of them. Again, we're not going to be seeing a lot of this stuff, but I just want to do it so I can keep it clean, keep the elements clean and tidy, not have little tree pieces sticking up where they shouldn't be. And you can see how much easier this is when it's all straight lines. You can pretty much just shift click your way through the whole thing. And the last thing I'm going to do is just kind of straighten out these bottoms, just delete the sides of them. And I'll merge that together. Building right, building left. And I'm going to take both of these and I'm just going to convert each one into a smart object. And I'll bring that back in. So now we have our flayed out, and I'll just flip it horizontally to match the light direction, which we'll get into. But now I have a building block, so I can set this up. It's like a clean slate, clean elements that I can set up in the correct perspective. And with that, yeah, we'll do that next.